History beyond sleep. The place where history's darkest secrets refuse to stay buried. Tonight,
in the cradle of time, long before digital clocks and satellite eyes, there was a world of hands and stone, of stars whispered through ancient winds, and of minds that measured the heavens by moonlight alone. It was a world of slow thought, careful fingers, and the belief that the universe could be mapped by mortals if they listened closely enough. And then something impossible was found, not in a golden tomb or beneath the vaulted ceilings of a famous temple, but in the quiet, tangled depths off the coast of a small Greek island. Beneath centuries of salt and silence, divers searching for statues and amphorae instead discovered a relic unlike anything recorded in ancient texts. It didn't glitter with jewels or roar with power. It was a lump of corroded bronze, encrusted with sea life and history, and it had teeth, gears, cogs, wheels inside wheels. It was, in essence, a machine, and it should not have existed, not from that era, not from that civilization, not from the pages of history we've written for ourselves. It would take decades to truly understand what they had found. Even now, we still don't fully know, but tonight we return to that strange moment of discovery, to a time when the past refused to stay buried, and when the sea gave back a secret it had cradled for 2,000 years. Let us begin not with conclusions, but with curiosity, not with science, but with silence. For that is how this story has always spoken. It was the spring of 1900, when sponge divers from the island of Simi were caught in a storm near the tiny outcrop of Antikythera. Forced to take shelter, they passed the time diving along the rocky seabed. At a depth of over 40 meters, one diver signaled frantically to the surface. When they pulled him up, shaken and pale, he told a tale that would become legend, of statues strewn across the ocean floor, of marble horses and bronze warriors sleeping in the deep. In the months that followed, the Greek government sent naval teams to investigate. They began to raise artifacts from what was clearly an ancient shipwreck, amphorae, coins, sculpture fragments, cargo from a vessel thought to be over 2,000 years old. Among them was a strange, heavily corroded chunk of bronze and wood. At the time it seemed an oddity, nothing more. No one could guess what it truly was. It would be over half a century before someone looked at that lump again and saw more than ruin. The first turning point came in 1951, when a physicist named Derek J. DeSala Price took a deep interest in the object. With radiographic imaging, he and others saw something astonishing: interlocking gears, arranged with careful mathematical precision. A gear in ancient Greece? One, perhaps, but 30, 40, some with teeth as fine and delicate as a clockmaker's. Dream, this was no tool, no astrolabe, no toy. It was a mechanism, a machine of startling complexity, and it dated from at least 100 BC. Let that settle in for a moment. A full 1,800 years before the first modern mechanical clocks were invented in Europe, someone had already mastered gearwork. Not only mastered it, but used it to model the heavens, to track time with mathematical finesse. To this day, we have never found another artifact like it. The Antikythera mechanism, as it came to be called, has challenged every assumption we once held about ancient technology. Scientists have spent decades trying to reverse engineer its structure, and while portions are missing, perhaps forever lost to the sea, What remains has opened a crack in history, through which strange light now gleams. The device was housed in a wooden case, about the size of a shoebox. Inside were dozens of gears mounted on spindles, calibrated to perform incredibly precise calculations. It had dials for lunar phases, indicators for planetary motion, calendrical tracking. It could predict eclipses with staggering accuracy. How could this be? How could a world without lathes, without modern metallurgy, without glass lenses create something so precise it rivals 18th century craftsmanship? Either our understanding of ancient science is deeply flawed, or the Antikythera mechanism is a survivor of something much greater than we imagined. And so, the mystery grows quietly. Some suggest it was a one-off marvel, the work of a lone genius whose knowledge died with him. Others believe it represents a lost lineage of engineering, a vanished tradition that once flourished in secret workshops, far from war and conquest. No matter the answer, the feeling it stirs is the same. A deep humility before the forgotten genius of the past, a reminder that history is not a straight line, but a winding path, and that sometimes something extraordinary slips through the cracks. The machine itself does not speak, but its silence is thunderous. There is poetry in how it was found. Not in a laboratory, not in a museum, but by accident in the drifting dark beneath the waves, as if it waited patiently for centuries to return to human hands, as if it knew we would one day be ready to listen. And so we do. We listen now, with X-rays and software, with scholars and dreamers, with open minds and quiet wonder, because some questions are meant not to be answered, but to be carried gently, like a candle in the dark. And so we carry this one with care. Why does this machine exist? Why did someone minus 5,000 years ago craft a model of the cosmos out of brass, with teeth so small they could cut the moon? Tonight we will not answer. Tonight we will simply dream beside it, and feel its wheels turn softly in the silence. Sleep. Now, the gears still turn. It is the sea that keeps secrets best, not the earth where tombs can be unearthed, or the sky which leaves no trace, but the sea. The sea takes what it wishes and holds it in its salt-heavy silence, rocking relics in the dark until centuries slip past like drifting silt. In 1900, off the forgotten coast of Antikythera, a jagged sliver of rock between the Greek islands of Kythera and Crete, the sea yielded one of its great secrets. It did not do so willingly. It took a storm, a ship full of sponge divers, and a diver who dared go deep enough to see the shape of history lying broken on the ocean floor. His name was Elias Stadiatis. When he surfaced, he was not the same. He spoke of marble limbs, of statues lying as if asleep beneath the blue, of wreckage and something else, something not quite statue, not quite tool, covered in barnacles. Silent and strange, the world did not listen at first, but the sea had spoken. What lay below was no ordinary wreck. Over 45 meters beneath the surface, across a slope of underwater cliffs, the remnants of an ancient Roman-era ship sprawled out like a puzzle half swallowed by the seabed. Amphorae, coins, glassware, and statues, many of them Greek, emerged. First, the ship itself was massive for its time, likely a cargo vessel bound for Rome, carrying stolen or traded Greek art and treasures. It had sunk sometime between 70 and 60 BC during a violent storm. Among the marble horses and bronze torsos, the recovery team noticed something strange. A corroded clump of green and black metal, fused to rotting wood, broken into pieces but clearly artificial in its geometry. It was boxed and catalogued without ceremony. No one knew what it truly was. Not yet. For over 50 years, the bronze fragments sat quietly in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, mostly ignored. One piece looked like a gear, but the idea that it could be a gear was quickly dismissed. The ancient Greeks, after all, weren't supposed to have such things. Not like this. It wasn't until 1959, when physicist and historian Derek J. DeSala Price turned his trained eye upon the object, that its true nature began to glimmer through the rust. He saw something mechanical, something intentional. He saw ratios and patterns. He saw a clock, or rather something older than a clock, something far more sophisticated than anything thought to exist from that era. It would take decades more, and the patience of both machines and men, to unravel its complexity. But already something had shifted in our understanding of the past. The mechanism, as it became known, was eventually understood to be a compact device composed of over 30 bronze gears, crammed into a box roughly the size of a modern textbook. It had inscriptions etched into its surfaces, dials on the front and back, and a precision that stunned even horologists, those who dedicate their lives to the study of timekeeping devices. But it's the sea that shaped its journey, because without the ocean's salt, its corrosion, its secrecy, this device might have disappeared forever. And yet, because of that same slow corrosion, most of it remains unreadable, its internal structure fragmented, its instructions missing. The sea both preserved and erased it, like a jealous guardian allowing us only glimpses. Imagine, for a moment, the scene as the divers first glimpsed it in 1900. Dim green light filtering through the depths. The skeletal ribs of a sunken ship lying sideways against the slope. Statues with eyes blank and blind, arms reaching for the surface they would never touch. And among them, this strange, lumpy object, too regular, too engineered, peeking out from a patch of sand and shell. No glimmer of treasure, no promise of wealth. Only mystery. And mystery, as you'll come to find, is the greatest treasure of all. The device was likely stored in a protective wooden casing when it sank, casing that decayed long ago save for faint traces. Inside were tightly packed gears, each hand-cut from bronze, some no larger than a coin, but with teeth so perfect they could rival modern machinery. The bronze, once polished to a golden gleam, had turned greenish-black from centuries underwater. The wood had rotted to pulp, but still it endured. It's believed the device was already over 100 years old when the ship sank, already ancient by the time it fell to the sea's embrace. So what ship carried it? And why? Was it being transported from one scholar to another? A trophy taken from some temple? A tool in active use, still serving the rhythms of sky and time? We may never know, but that hasn't stopped generations from wondering, more than 100 years after its discovery. The wreck continues to give up secrets. In 2012 and 2017, new expeditions returned to the site using modern underwater robotics and sonar mapping. They found human bones, a lead anchor, coins, more statues, and perhaps more fragments of the mechanism itself, still buried beneath silt and stone. But the sea is slow to surrender what it holds. The machine may still be down there, not whole, but in pieces, not speaking, but waiting for divers with gentler tools, for scientists with kinder eyes, for storytellers with open hearts. Tonight we don't need to find the missing pieces. We don't need to solve the puzzle just yet. Instead, we float with it, just beneath the waves, letting the silence of the deep carry us back to the moment it was lost, and the quiet miracle that it was ever found. Think of the barnacles that formed on its face, the schools of fish that passed above, the centuries of storms that raged on the surface while it lay still and unseen, a world lost in motion, buried in motion. And yet, somewhere below, the gears still held their shapes, still turned in memory, like a lullaby frozen in brass, as you drift tonight. Imagine the hush of the sea, the soft creak of old wood, the glint of bronze beneath a crust of coral, and the idea that somewhere out there in the ocean's keeping there may be more machines, more mysteries, more proof that our ancestors were not merely wise, they were wondrous. Let the waves rock you now, as they once rocked the wreck. As they once guarded a secret, the sea has given us a whisper. Let us fall asleep listening to what it has to say. The moment a gear turns, the world changes. A tiny movement, measured and precise, unlocking something profound. In the case of the Nafi Antikythera mechanism, it was not just a gear, it was a glimpse into a mind that saw time and space as intertwined rhythms, woven like threads in a tapestry. When scientists first peered inside the corroded fragments, what they found was nothing short of astonishing. A system of interlocking bronze wheels, each cut with a level of precision that rivaled 18th century clockmakers. Gears within gears, some small as a fingernail, others larger and more ornate, all meshing together in perfect harmony. For the modern mind, it was a puzzle that refused to be solved quickly or simply. How could a civilization thousands of years ago conceive of such complexity? How did they know the motions of planets and stars so well that they built a machine to replicate them? The study of the device would span decades. Physicists, historians, astronomers, and engineers pored over every fragment, every inscription, trying to decode the secrets it held. In the 1970s, through X-ray imaging, researchers discovered it wasn't just a calculator of eclipses or lunar cycles. It was a mechanical model of the cosmos itself. It modeled the known planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. It showed their motions around the sun, though the ancients believed the Earth was at the center. It even accounted for irregularities in orbit, something that would not be fully understood until modern astronomy. This was no mere toy. It was a sophisticated instrument, a tool to understand the universe's hidden dance. Modern engineers who attempted to reconstruct the mechanism were humbled. They marveled at the ingenuity required to carve such tiny, precise teeth by hand, without the benefit of machine tools. Each gear had to mesh perfectly with the next, or the entire system would jam. Think of a watchmaker, delicate and exacting, sculpting gears from bronze by candlelight. Imagine measuring time by the turning of planets, compressing vast cycles of years into a box you could hold in your hand. It was a fusion of art and science, of intuition and calculation. This was not a machine born from factories or assembly lines. It was born from minds unafraid to reach for the stars using the tools they had: metal, wood, and thought. The inscriptions, worn but still legible, were another marvel. Etched onto the case and dials were instructions and explanations, written in ancient Greek. They detailed eclipses, the cycles of the moon, and the timing of games and festivals, everything tied to the rhythms of nature and society. But even the inscriptions left many questions unanswered. Some sections were damaged beyond repair. Others were written in code, using terminology that has puzzled linguists for decades. What we know is that this was a teaching tool, a calendar, a clock, and a celestial computer all in one. Its purpose was not merely practical, but philosophical. For the ancient Greeks, understanding the cosmos was an act of worship, a way to glimpse the divine order beneath chaos. To build such a device was to weave together myth and mathematics, to craft a tangible representation of the invisible harmonies that governed the world. Modern minds approach the mechanism with reverence and humility. Each new discovery brings both answers and fresh mysteries. Its complexity exceeds anything known from antiquity, forcing us to reconsider the limits of ancient knowledge. Could such understanding have existed elsewhere? Might there be other devices waiting to be found, lost to time and tide? The Antikythera mechanism invites us into a conversation across millennia. It challenges the assumption that progress is linear, that knowledge only grows steadily forward. Sometimes genius blooms and fades like a rare flower, leaving only a fragment behind. As you lie quietly now, feel the weight of those ancient gears turning, not just in bronze, but in memory. Imagine the hands that fashioned them, the minds that conceived them, and the silent journey they took beneath the waves. There is something timeless in this machine, a reminder that curiosity is eternal, that the desire to understand the cosmos is part of our human heartbeat. Tonight, the device speaks softly through time. It does not boast or explain, but hums a gentle lullaby of wonder. The turning of gears becomes the turning of thoughts, slow, precise, and endless. And as your breath steadies, as your eyelids grow heavy, let that hum carry you. Let it be a rhythm that lulls you into sleep, a heartbeat from the distant past, whispering that the universe is vast, mysterious, and beautiful, and that, in some quiet way, we have always tried to reach it. Sleep now, to the soft ticking of ancient gears. There is a stillness in metal that speaks louder than words, cold, silent, and enduring. The Antikythera mechanism holds within its bronze cogs and wheels not just mechanical parts, but the faintest echoes of lives long vanished. Ghosts of hands that crafted, of minds that dreamed, now hidden beneath layers of rust and time. Who were these people? Not kings nor conquerors, but thinkers, observers of the skies and seekers of patterns. A forgotten generation whose curiosity outpaced history's memory. Tonight, we reach out to them through the quiet language of metal. Imagine an ancient workshop filled with the scent of wood smoke and metal filings. A craftsman's hands rough yet tender turning tiny gears, measuring angles by eye, guided by something between science and intuition. He does not carve for wealth or fame, but for understanding. His workshop is filled with drawings, scrolls, and models of the heavens scattered across a table worn by time. No signature marks the work, no name etched beside the gears. This machine was not made for glory, but for knowledge. Its maker remains a ghost. Our history often remembers only those who held power, empires and kings, wars and battles. But in the margins of history there are lives shaped by wonder. The great philosophers, astronomers, and mathematicians who mapped the stars and dreamed of their meaning. These ghostly figures left no statues, no tombs grand enough to echo through the ages. Only their ideas, locked inside instruments like the Antikythera mechanism. Ideas carved from bronze, whispering through the centuries. Who were they? Some scholars believe they may have been followers of Hipparchus or Posidonius, great astronomers of the Hellenistic period. Others suggest they were members of secret guilds or learned circles hidden from the public eye. Their work was delicate, fragile, and easily lost. The machine is their legacy, a silent testament to minds that gaze beyond the ordinary, seeking patterns in chaos. Their voices are faint, but their presence undeniable. The inscriptions on the mechanism offer a glimpse into their thinking, though the full message is lost. Words like Meton cycle and Saros cycle hint at deep knowledge of celestial rhythms. They understood eclipses, phases, and planetary alignments with a sophistication that echoes modern astronomy. Yet they chose to encode their knowledge in gears and dials rather than texts alone. Perhaps they sought to make knowledge tangible, to hold the cosmos in their hands. Or maybe they wished to hide their secrets from prying eyes. We are left to imagine the conversations that surrounded this machine. Scholars discussing the heavens under candlelight. Debates about the nature of time and fate. Questions asked aloud, only to be answered by the slow turning of bronze gears. These ghosts live in those moments, in the flicker of flame and shadow. They remind us that knowledge is not just facts, but a living dialogue across generations. As centuries passed, their world crumbled. Empires fell, libraries burned, and the memory of their craft faded into obscurity. The machine sank beneath, the waves carrying with it the whispers of its creators. But the ghosts in the metal do not disappear. They linger in every gear, every tooth, every faded inscription, waiting for us to listen. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine reaching through time to touch these forgotten minds. Feel the weight of their curiosity, the care in their craftsmanship, and the wonder that guided them. Know that you are part of their story, too a thread in the tapestry of human thought. Let their silent presence calm your mind and soothe your spirit. For in the stillness of metal, the past and present meet. And in that meeting we find peace. Sleep now, cradled by the echoes of ancient dreams, once, long before telescopes pierced the heavens. The sky was not a vast empty void, but a living machine, an intricate clockwork of stars and planets winding slowly through time. The ancients did not see the cosmos as random or chaotic, but as a great mechanism turning with purpose and harmony. Their world was one where the heavens themselves could be understood, predicted, and, in a sense, held in one's hand. The Antikythera mechanism is the closest surviving whisper of this ancient cosmic vision. It is a model of the sky as the ancients imagined it, a clockwork universe bound by gears, cycles, and eternal rhythms dot in the age before satellites and spectroscopes. Humanity's only tools to comprehend the heavens were the naked eye and the mind's imagination. They watched the sun rise and set, tracked the phases of the moon, followed the wanderings of planets like Mercury and Venus, whose paths defied easy explanation. The sky was a calendar, a clock, and a storybook all at once. The device captures this worldview perfectly. It is a mechanical embodiment of the celestial dance, able to predict eclipses, track lunar cycles, and mark the movements of the known planets all through the turn of its carefully crafted wheels. This was no mere gadget. It was a way to bring order to the heavens, to tame the wild and shifting sky by turning it into something graspable and comprehensible. In a world ruled by gods and fate, the Antikythera mechanism was a bridge between divine mystery and human understanding. Ancient philosophers believed the cosmos was a vast, interconnected system, where everything moved according to fixed laws and harmonic proportions. To map the stars was to glimpse the mind of the universe itself. The mechanism's dials and pointers were like windows into this cosmic clockwork. One dial marked the Metonic cycle 19 years, after which the phases of the moon repeat. Another followed the Saros cycle, predicting eclipses with astonishing accuracy. There were pointers for the zodiac, for lunar months, and even for ancient sporting festivals, which were tied to celestial events. Each gear was a cog in a grander design, each turn a step in a cosmic dance, choreographed by unseen hands. Imagine the minds that conceived this. Philosophers, mathematicians, and astronomers sitting together under the night sky, charting the movement of stars with patience and precision. To them the sky was a machine, complex, beautiful, and ultimately knowable. Their world was poetic and scientific all at once, where measurement and myth intertwined. The turning gears of the Antikythera mechanism capture this spirit, a testament to human curiosity reaching for the infinite. And yet the device also humbles us, because while it models the known planets, the ancients did not yet understand gravity or heliocentrism. Their universe was geocentric, Earth at the center, the planets and sun revolving around it. Still, the mechanism accounted for irregularities and anomalies in the orbits, showing a sophistication that would not be fully explained until millennia. Later, it is as if the machine holds a secret between knowledge and mystery, precision and wonder. As you rest now, imagine the sky turning above you like a great machine, the sun tracing its arc, the moon waxing and waning, planets wandering along their ancient paths. Think of the hands that first dreamed this mechanical sky, who translated its poetry into bronze and gear. Their legacy turned softly beneath your breath, a lullaby spun from stars and time. Let this vision carry you gently into sleep, where the sky is a machine, and the stars are wheels turning silently in the night. What remains of the Antikythera mechanism is but a whisper of its former self, a collection of broken fragments, bronze teeth worn down by centuries beneath the sea, edges chipped, inscriptions faded into near oblivion. Yet within these scattered pieces lies a blueprint of forgotten genius, a silent map to understanding the cosmos that once graced the hands of an ancient maker. Fragments are more than ruins. They are invitations. Each shard calls to us across, the centuries asking to be pieced together, to tell their story once more. Imagine a puzzle with many missing parts, where every recovered fragment unlocks new wonders and every gap deepens the mystery. Scholars and engineers alike have spent decades trying to reconstruct this machine, tracing the outlines of its gears, guessing at the flow of its hidden motions. X-rays and 3D scans reveal astonishing detail beneath layers of corrosion. Tiny inscriptions emerge, numbers, symbols, calendars, even warnings etched in a language of mathematics and philosophy. Yet the full picture eludes us still. What was once a complete mechanism now lies scattered, its original shape only faintly visible beneath the damage wrought by time and tide. The wooden case, long gone, once protected and concealed this marvel. Its dials and pointers, now missing or broken, once turned gracefully to mark the celestial dance. We hold only fragments, pieces of a cosmic clock, frozen mid-motion. The act of reconstruction is a gentle collaboration between past and present. Modern technology allows us to simulate gear rotations, to model the paths of planets and moons. But much remains conjecture, a careful weaving of facts, informed guesses, and poetic intuition. Each discovery is a moment of wonder, a lost gear found in a museum drawer, a faint inscription deciphered, a new model that brings the mechanism's function closer to life. And yet, with each step forward, the question lingers. What have we missed? What parts remain forever lost beneath the ocean floor? The missing fragments invite us to imagine the whole, a complete machine, perfectly balanced, telling time not only for the heavens but for the rhythms of human life. Calendars that marked festivals, eclipses that foretold omens, cycles that linked earth and sky. This blueprint was not merely technical, it was spiritual. A bridge between the tangible and the cosmic. Think now of the hands that first assembled these gears, careful and reverent. They worked without modern tools, guided by eyes sharp and minds sharper still. Each gear was hand-cut, each fitting adjusted with meticulous care. There was no margin for error. This was a machine that had to work perfectly because it was a map of the heavens themselves. And so, these fragments whisper of a lost art, an art of precision, patience, and wonder. A knowledge that was once common, now veiled by millennia of silence. They invite us to be patient, too, to accept that some mysteries unfold slowly, and some truths come in pieces. Tonight, as your thoughts drift, imagine gently placing these fragments back together, a slow, tender puzzle, a cosmic dance rebuilt from memory and hope. Let the fragments be a lullaby, softly turning in your mind, a reminder that even broken things can hold infinite beauty. Sleep now, cradled by the echoes of a forgotten blueprint. Gears speak not with sound, but with silence. They do not cry out as they turn, they whisper only when they are broken. And, in the case of the Antikythera mechanism, the greatest mystery lies not in what it shows us, but in what it does not. For every tooth that still turns, there are spaces where teeth are missing, empty spaces between gears, a silence between the teeth. What are we missing? Historians and engineers have tried to count the mechanism's teeth one by one. Some gears have 127, others 223. These are not random numbers, but carefully chosen ratios matching lunar months, eclipse cycles, and planetary revolutions. Every missing tooth is a vanished note from an ancient melody. Every missing gear, a ghost limb of celestial knowledge. Yet the silence is not a flaw. It is a part of the story. The gaps invite contemplation. What gears might have occupied the blank spaces within the corroded bronze? Were there additional layers, more dials, more functions that we can no longer see? Might there have been a complete orrery, showing not just the moon and sun, but the full planetary system? The X-rays and scans reveal shadows, places where pins once fit, where axles may have rotated, but the parts are gone, dissolved into the sea's forgetting. We're left without lines, like constellations in reverse. Not stars we can see, but dark spaces where something once gleamed. This silence invites humility. Modern minds, equipped with the finest instruments, are still baffled by a device born before the Roman Empire reached its height. We can measure it, we can model it, but we cannot fully understand how such knowledge existed, then vanished so completely. And in that unknowing we feel something profound, the weight of all that is lost, and the strange beauty of what remains. Imagine an ancient astronomer running his fingers over the finished device. He knows each turn, each cycle, by heart. He has watched the stars for decades, and now through this machine he can hold the heavens in his hands. To him, the mechanism is not mysterious. It is precise, familiar, a teacher and a companion. He turns the crank, the gears move, the dials align with the constellations overhead. He smiles, not in pride, but in peace. The machine sings the sky back to him. We, in our time, only hear echoes of that song. Where he saw harmony, we see fragments. Where he saw design, we see corrosion. Where he knew names, we know only numbers. And yet, even in the silence between the teeth, there is music. Some researchers believe the mechanism may have once included a planetarium-like display, perhaps showing the retrograde motions of Mars, the phases of Venus, the conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn. Others suggest the front dial may have included colored inlays or painted indicators, blue for the moon, gold for the sun, red for Mars. We cannot know for sure. The physical traces are gone, but the dreams remain. There is beauty in the silence, because silence invites us to imagine. And imagination, too, is a kind of turning a gear that never rusts. As you lie in stillness tonight, think of the missing gears not with frustration, but with wonder. Let your thoughts drift into those quiet spaces, the places where history fell away. Let the silence between the teeth become a soft rhythm, guiding you gently inward. For what is sleep but a kind of gearless turning, a slowing of time, a falling into the spaces where memory ends and mystery begins? Sleep now, where the lost gears turn only in dreams. Long before satellites and observatories, long before glass lenses curved to magnify the stars, there stood a figure in the dark, head tilted to the heavens, eyes wide with quiet awe. The stargazer. He had no telescope, no computer, no radar. Just ink-stained fingers, patient eyes, and a soul tuned to the slow music of the night sky. The Antikythera mechanism is his legacy. Not in name, perhaps, not in fame, but in purpose, design, and wonder. Across the ancient world, from Alexandria to Rhodes, men and women looked up and asked the same question. What governs the stars? Are they gods? Are they signs? Or are they simply part of a great and hidden logic, a celestial mathematics waiting to be understood? The Greeks, inheriting Babylonian calculations and Egyptian calendars, did not merely observe the stars, they mapped them. And then, one day, someone tried to build them, not a temple, not a shrine, but a machine. We do not know who first imagined the mechanism. Perhaps it was a student of Hipparchus, the man who catalogued the stars, or a follower of Archimedes, who dreamed of levers long enough to move the world. Or maybe, just maybe, it was someone anonymous, a name lost to sand and fire, a quiet craftsman who dared to turn sky into metal. Whoever they were, they carried the torch of observation, lit by stargazers long before them. The legacy of the stargazer is not in grand monuments. It is in the silent language of measurement and model, in the attempt to understand the dance of the cosmos. The mechanism, with its cycles and counts, its dials and inscriptions, was the ultimate tribute to that ancient pursuit. A clock for the stars, a handheld planetarium, a quiet assertion that the universe was Knowa to the ancient Greek mind. Beauty and truth were not separate. A well-made gear was not merely functional, it was divine. Proportion mattered. Harmony mattered. The turning of planets mirrored the turning of thoughts. The mechanism is not just a tool. It is a philosophy in bronze. It says, the world turns in order. Time has structure. There is meaning in motion. And to build such a device was to honor the divine order of the cosmos. Today, we peer back across time and try to reclaim that vision. But our tools are different now. We simulate on screens. We reconstruct with algorithms. We search not the sky, but the seabed and the archive. Yet the soul of the stargazer still flickers in us. When we pause to watch the moon rise, when we notice a planet glowing low in the sky, when we wonder why the stars change through the seasons, the Antikythera mechanism is a bridge between those ancient souls and our modern minds. It reminds us that curiosity does not belong to one era, that wonder, like starlight, travels great distances. And so the legacy lives on not in metal, but in the human longing to understand. Tonight, let yourself become the stargazer. Close your eyes and lift your mind upward. Picture the slow wheel of the constellations turning above you. Imagine holding a machine in your hands that tells you not only what day it is, but where the moon is in its cycle when the next eclipse will darken the sky, and which stars will rise tonight. A whisper of precision, a lullaby of numbers, a bronze reflection of the boundless sky. Sleep now beneath the same stars the ancients followed. Their legacy hums in the darkness, soft as the breath between turning gears. The winds that whisper through history often carry traces of cities long vanished, and among them none glows brighter in memory than Alexandria, a city of scrolls, and scholars of marble courtyards and moonlit observatories where minds gathered not to conquer, but to know. And though its stones lie shattered, though its great library is ash and silence, its breath lingers quietly within the gears of the Antikythera mechanism. For if the machine has a homeland, a birthplace of thought, then surely it is Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great, and polished to brilliance under the Ptolemies. Alexandria became the beating heart of the ancient intellectual world. Its famed library, perhaps mythical in scope, housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls, texts, from Greece, Egypt, India, Babylon, and beyond. Astronomy, mathematics, poetry, engineering, all studied side by side beneath oil lamps and carved columns. It was not merely a collection, but a crucible, a place where knowledge did not just rest, it evolved. Imagine the scholars of Alexandria in their long linen robes, stepping softly between shelves of papyrus and parchment, their eyes bright with questions. Here, Aristarchus proposed a sun-centered universe. Here, Eratosthenes measured the Earth's circumference using only shadows. Here, Hipparchus charted the stars with such accuracy that his maps would echo through the mechanism's teeth a century later. It was in this sacred space, half temple, half laboratory, that ideas leapt across generations. Ideas that would one day be cast into bronze, while the Antikythera mechanism was likely built later, perhaps on Rhodes or in a smaller workshop. Its soul was born in Alexandria. Its gears echo the methods developed there. Its cycles echo their calendars. Its elegance echoes their philosophy. And perhaps, just perhaps, one of the men who built it once stood beneath the library's domed ceiling, tracing a constellation across a scroll, never guessing his thoughts would one day wash ashore in the form of corroded metal. Alexandria was not a city of war, but of wonder. Its defenders wielded equations. Its frontiers were not borders, but the boundaries of human understanding. But all golden ages slip. And one day the scrolls fell silent. The fall of the library is one of history's softest tragedies. No great cataclysm, no final fire we can point to with certainty. Just a slow unraveling. Perhaps some texts were lost in Julius Caesar's siege. Others vanished during later invasions, or during the rise of new empires and religions. Perhaps the library was not a single place, but many rooms scattered across the city, rooms emptied quietly, one after another. There is no record of the last scroll. Just silence. And so, the knowledge that once pulsed through Alexandria faded, but not completely. Some ideas were carried outward by travelers, by teachers, by machines. The Antikythera mechanism may be one of the last surviving vessels of that legacy, a single drop of Alexandria's vast sea of brilliance, preserved not in papyrus, but in bronze. It is strange to think that metal may outlast parchment, that a machine submerged for 2,000 years can survive better than the books read by emperors and sages. But perhaps that, too, is part of the story. Knowledge has many shapes. Some are bound, some are spoken, and some are built. As you drift tonight, picture a moonlit courtyard in ancient Alexandria. Olive trees sway in the night breeze. A scholar stands beneath the stars, scroll in one hand, compass in the other. He is watching the path of Venus, calculating its retrograde motion, whispering equations softly into the wind. In his eyes, wonder; in his hands, patience; and in his thoughts, a vision that will one day be shaped into a machine with 30 bronze gears. Sleep now, and let the echoes of Alexandria carry you. Their voices are not lost. They are turning still, softly, inside the mechanism. Islands are quiet places. They keep to themselves, surrounded by the hush of waves, guarded by wind and salt and time. And one such island, shaped by sun and shadow, may have once echoed with the click of tools and the gentle turn of bronze wheels. Rhodes the island, of engineers, philosophers, and sailors. A crossroads of minds where the stars were measured and mapped, and where, many believe, the Antikythera mechanism was born. By the 1st century BCE, Rhodes was more than an island. It was a sanctuary for seekers of truth, a place where the arts of astronomy, navigation, and mathematics flourished. It had schools, observatories, workshops that echoed with the filing of gears, the etching of inscriptions, and the patient labor of hands that worked not just for utility, but for understanding. Rhodes, like Alexandria, had inherited the ancient thirst for knowledge. But here knowledge was carved into metal. The Rhodian school of astronomy had deep roots. It traced lines across the sky, mapped eclipses, and developed complex calendars based on lunar and solar cycles. Many believe that Hipparchus, the brilliant astronomer who first catalogued over 1,000 stars and defined the concept of celestial coordinates, spent his final years here. And perhaps, just perhaps, his scrolls and star charts were studied by the very hands that would later shape the Antikythera mechanism. His influence is visible in the machine's logic, its calculation of the moon's motion, its use of the 19-year Metonic cycle, its reverence for accuracy. One cannot help but picture it. A quiet workshop nestled near the sea. Bronze plates on a cedarwood table, waiting to be shaped. A compass, a chisel, a scroll with mathematical formulas, and a craftsman, head bowed in silent thought, as the sun dips low over the Rhodian hills. Outside, the cicadas sing. Inside, time is being built. Perhaps there were apprentices. Perhaps the work took years. This was no idle invention. It required theory and practice, design and testing, failure and refinement. The machine was meant to endure, not just physically, but conceptually. It was meant to teach, to translate the sky into turning wheels, to predict eclipses long before they came, to help sailors navigate by the stars, to harmonize the passage of time with the heartbeat of the heavens. And then, for reasons lost to us, it left the island, perhaps as a gift to a Roman statesman, perhaps as cargo meant for a patron in the imperial court, or perhaps more romantically, as a relic, a precious creation from a declining age of genius, making its way westward across the sea, until it sank and slept for 2,000 years. Rhodes, meanwhile, continued to turn. Its thinkers passed into legend, its inventions scattered to the winds. The island, like the machine, became a relic itself, but echoes remain. The machine's craftsmanship, its layout, its celestial accuracy, all bear the fingerprints of Rhodian minds. The gears remember. Tonight, imagine walking through that ancient workshop, the scent of metal and cedar, the warmth of oil lamps casting long shadows on stone, gears laid out like constellations across a table, and above it all, silence. The same silence we hear when we gaze up at the stars, not emptiness, but expectancy. Let Rhodes be your island tonight. Let its hills cradle you. Let its workshop live again in your dreams, where every star is a number, every cycle a story, and every gear a prayer whispered to the cosmos. Sleep now, where the island of gears turns softly in the distance. It's ancient, hands still shaping time. Bronze does not speak in words. It speaks in shapes and shadows, in the quiet precision of teeth and rims, and the rhythm of turning wheels that echo the passage of time itself. Within the Antikythera mechanism, bronze becomes a language both ancient and eternal, carrying messages across millennia in silence. This language was carved with care, each gear a letter, each dial a word, each inscription a sentence. Whispered in metal, inscriptions on the fragments are faded, worn, like whispered secrets lost to time. Yet they reveal hints, terms, and cycles familiar to the astronomers of their day, coded references to calendars and eclipses, to gods and festivals, all woven into a script that blends science and spirituality. The script is not just technical. It is poetic, a rhythm in bronze that tells us about the cosmos and humanity's place within it. Decoding these inscriptions has been a long and delicate journey. Scholars have studied the ancient Greek letters and symbols, cross-referencing them with known astronomical cycles and historical calendars. What emerges is a tapestry of knowledge, a dialogue between humanity and the stars. Among the most intriguing terms are the Metonic cycle, the Saros cycle, and references to the Callippic cycle, all describing the intricate dance of moon and sun. These cycles mark time in ways that seem mysterious, but are rooted in observation and pattern. The Metonic cycle, for example, links lunar months to solar years, 19 years, after which the phases of the moon recur on the same days. The Saros cycle predicts eclipses every 18 years and 11 days. The Callippic cycle, a refinement of the Metonic, spans 76 years. Within the mechanism, these cycles are not just theory, they are brought to life through gears and pointers, a dynamic poem of numbers moving in harmony. The inscriptions also hint at cultural rhythms, ancient festivals and games tied to lunar and solar calendars. The mechanism was not only a tool of science, but also a calendar for society, a machine that linked the heavens with human timekeeping, ritual, and celebration. This blending of the cosmic and the communal shows how intertwined ancient life was. With the stars, reading the language of bronze requires patience. Like learning a new tongue, it demands listening to the spaces between the words, feeling the pulse of the mechanism's motion, and sensing the reverence of its makers. It speaks to us not only through letters, but through craftsmanship. The smoothness of gear teeth, the balance of forces, the flow of motion. Every curve and contour is part of the dialogue. Tonight, as you lie in stillness, imagine the inscriptions glowing softly under a scholar's lamp. Hear the quiet hum of the mechanism turning, a bronze voice speaking across the ages. Its message is simple. We are part of something vast. We seek order in chaos. We reach for the stars. Sleep now, with the language of bronze, whispering its ancient lullaby. It slept beneath the sea, silent, still, and waiting. The wreckage of a Roman-era ship, its timber rotted, its cargo scattered. Like lost dreams, lying beneath the turquoise waves off the coast of a Ntikyther. No one knew what it carried. Not until a storm tossed a group of sponge divers toward its resting place in 1900. And there, beneath the coral and stone, they found something unexpected, a machine made of bronze, cloaked in incrustation, yet quietly singing of the stars. The ship itself was a mystery, a grand vessel, likely Roman, likely wealthy. It bore statues and glassware, amphorae and jewelry, luxury from the Greek world bound, perhaps for Rome. But among the treasures was something else, something not for decoration, but for revelation. a cluster of corroded gears pressed together like an ancient puzzle. They looked unremarkable. At first, barnacle-covered fragments as fragile as autumn leaves. But inside them slept the very rhythm of the cosmos. Imagine that ship, centuries ago, swaying under a Grecian sky. Sailors moving below the stars, perhaps unaware of the treasure held in their hold. A box of wood and bronze, cradled in linen or leather, bearing within it a world in miniature. Perhaps a scholar stood aboard that ship, protectively watching over the device, turning its dials, watching the planets align. Perhaps he whispered to the wind, "This will change everything." And then the storm. The ship goes down. The sea claims the stars. For nearly 2,000 years, the Antikythera mechanism lay in darkness. Hidden beneath silt and coral, its gears locked tight, its dials silent. Time passed above it, empires rising and falling, languages dying and being born. As the mechanism waited quietly in the deep dot, it was not destroyed. It was simply ... forgotten ... Divers who found it were searching not for history, but for sponge. And when they surfaced with the first bronze fragments, no one could have guessed what they had found. It took years, decades, even before scholars realized the full magnitude of the discovery. This was not a statue, not an idol. It was a machine, and not just any machine, the oldest known computer, an analog instrument of breathtaking precision. The shipwreck became a portal, a door between the ancient and modern worlds. Inside its scattered cargo were echoes of technology thought impossible for its time. The Antikythera mechanism changed the story. It whispered that the ancients knew far more than we gave them credit for, that their minds reached just as far as ours, that progress is not a straight line, but a circle, like the turning of the moon or the slow arc of a planet through the night. Today, explorers still dive to that wreck. New technologies, robotic submarines, 3D scanners, probe the seafloor, hoping for more fragments, more whispers from the deep. Each artifact pulled from the wreck is a syllable in a sentence. We're still trying to read, and still the sea guards its secrets. What else rests there, buried in coral and time? More gears, more machines, more lost pieces of our forgotten brilliance? The shipwreck tells us that knowledge is fragile, that even the most extraordinary ideas can be lost too. A single wave, a single wind, a single forgotten moment. But it also tells us something else, that time, though cruel, can be kind. That the sea, though it swallows, also preserves. That a machine meant to measure the stars can vanish and still be found. Tonight, as you breathe in stillness, imagine that ship gliding once more across a moonlit sea. Its sails full of wind, its cargo not just goods but wisdom. Inside, a small wooden box ticking softly, gently, counting eclipses, measuring seasons, dreaming of stars. Let your mind drift with it, carried over the waves of memory to the moment. Before the storm, and let the quiet wreckage beneath the waves remind you that even lost things find their way home. Sleep now, and sleep now, cradled by the shipwreck that held the stars. To build a machine that tracks the stars is to build a mirror for time. But time, like the tide, is slippery. It moves in rhythms that cannot be caged. And yet someone long ago tried. The Antikythera mechanism is proof of that noble attempt. a paradox in bronze, ancient hands crafting, a future-proof clock, even as the sands of their own time slipped silently through their fingers. The more we study it, the more its mystery deepens, not because it is unclear, but because it is impossibly clear for the age that birthed it. Who built this machine? Not just with their hands, but with the kind of insight that sees centuries ahead. They knew of cycles so precise of eclipses, alignments, retrogrades, that they could model them mechanically. This was not imitation. It was translation. The cosmos, spoken fluently in gear and gear, like a dialect of the divine. But therein lies the paradox. If one device like this existed, why have we found no others? If such knowledge was known, why did it vanish? Why did the gears go silent? Why did the stargazer's language fall mute? Some say it was a singular marvel, a one-of-a-kind invention, a brilliant outlier, born from an extraordinary mind and lost in the wreck before it could inspire others. Others believed there were more, other devices, other builders, but time and fire, conquest and collapse erased their presence. Knowledge, after all, is delicate. It does not always survive war nor greed, nor neglect. Even brilliance can vanish if the world forgets how to value it. And so, the mechanism becomes a paradox, too advanced for its time, and yet undeniably real. It forces us to question our own timeline of progress. Were there forgotten renaissances, buried revolutions of thought, moments when civilization stood on the edge of modernity and then stepped back? We do not know. We only have this one machine, this one voice from the deep, and perhaps that, too, is part of its message. That time is not a ladder, but a wheel. That history does not always march forward. Sometimes it turns in circles, repeating, resetting, rediscovering. Like the dials on the mechanism itself, slowly returning to the beginning, again and again. The builder of the Antikythera mechanism understood this. They weren't just making a clock, they were crafting a philosophy, one that saw time not as a line, but as a cycle, a wheel within wheels, a paradox in motion. Imagine that builder now, a clockmaker, a philosopher, sitting at a cedar-wood bench, fine shavings of bronze on the floor, a candle flickering beside a diagram of the heavens. They know what they are building is rare, perhaps even too rare, but they build it anyway, because some truths must be built, even if they are never seen again. Tonight, let that image rest with you. The builder who knew they were out of time, and yet built time itself. Let your breath fall into rhythm with the gears they carved. Let their paradox soothe your mind, that what is forgotten can be found, that what is lost is not always gone. Sleep now where the clockmaker's hands still turn, and the stars keep perfect time. There are moments in history when something surfaces, out of place, out of time, and unsettles everything we thought we knew. The Antikythera mechanism is one such moment. A machine whose gears should not exist, not in the 1st century BCE, not in a world without modern factories, without precise tools, without industrial science. And yet here it is, real, measured, and turning still. The mechanism's gears are not crude or makeshift. They are delicate, elegant, some with more than 200 teeth, all cut with uncanny precision, interlocking with ratios that reflect astronomical cycles. They model lunar anomalies, eclipses, solar years, and even planetary retrogrades, with mathematical fluency thought impossible for that age. It is not just the presence of gears that astonishes scholars. It is how they function, not just to turn, but to calculate. To predict. This is not craftsmanship alone. This is theory made tangible. To craft such a device, one must understand not just metalworking, but ratios, celestial mechanics, differential. Gearing. It is an object that belongs more comfortably in a Renaissance laboratory next to Galileo's telescope or Newton's prism than aboard a sunken Roman cargo ship. And yet it predates them all by nearly 2,000 years. Why do these gears exist? Some believe it was the product of a lost golden age of Greek mechanical engineering, a time of Archimedes, hero of Alexandria, when automata were imagined and intricate systems conceived in scrolls, now turned to dust. Others wonder if the knowledge was secret, reserved for the elite few philosopher-engineers whose inventions were hidden or destroyed, swallowed by fire, war, or the jealous hands of power. Perhaps it was never meant to survive, and yet it did. One fragment reveals a gear train that adjusts for the elliptical orbit of the moon. This feature, a kind of mathematical compensator, mimics what we now call a Hipparchic lunar model, suggesting that not only was this ancient device precise, it was scientifically literate. It was a machine that knew, and here lies the discomfort. If this machine existed, what else might have? What other gears, diagrams, devices were lost, tossed into the sea, or burned with libraries, or left to decay in forgotten tombs? Was the Antikythera mechanism the pinnacle of a long line of such machines, or the first whisper of what might have been? The gears shouldn't exist, not with that complexity, not in that era, and yet they do. They have been X-rayed, CT scanned, digitally reconstructed. They are not speculation. They are facts, hard, corroded, measurable, and still they carry the weight of the impossible. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine those impossible gears slowly turning in the deep, turning beneath centuries of silt and silence, turning in defiance of time, turning with knowledge we once had and forgot. Let them turn in your mind, each tooth a question, each click a reminder that human hands, even long ago, were capable of extraordinary things. Sleep now, beneath the ticking of the gears that shouldn't exist, but do. The sea is an ancient storyteller, whispering tales in waves and salt spray, carrying secrets from distant shores, and keeping some close, locked beneath its depths. For the mariners of antiquity, the stars were their compass, and the rhythm of the heavens was the pulse that guided their journeys. Long before GPS, before compasses spun freely, they read the sky like an open book, navigating by moon phases, stellar alignments, and the silent march of planets. The Antikythera mechanism may have been their silent ally, a cosmic guide held in the palm, a mechanical map of the heavens that whispered of eclipses, seasons, and cycles. Its dials could have helped mariners know when the sun would rise high, when the moon would wane, and when the stars would herald storms or calm seas. To the ancient sailor, understanding these rhythms was a matter of life and death. Imagine a captain standing on the deck, a bronze device cradled carefully in one hand, its gears turning softly as the ship swayed. He turns the crank, watching as pointers align to mark celestial events. events that would warn him of hidden dangers or guide him to safe harbors far across the horizon. Though lost beneath the waves for centuries, the mechanism's purpose may have been as practical as it was profound. It bridged the gap between knowledge and survival, between the stars above and the waters below. For the mariners, it was a talisman of certainty in a world of uncertainty. The secrets whispered by these sailors are still elusive. We do not know exactly how the mechanism was used in daily life, nor how widespread such devices may have been. But the very existence of the Antikythera mechanism hints at a culture where technology and navigation danced together. It invites us to imagine the unspoken trust between man and machine, a trust that transcended time and tide. Where every turn of a gear was a step toward safe passage, and every pointer a silent word of advice from the heavens. Tonight, as your breath slows, picture those ancient mariners, their eyes steady on the horizon, guided by the stars and the quiet turning of bronze gears. Feel the seas whisper, soft and endless, carrying their secrets to you across time. Sleep now, carried gently on the whispered secrets of the mariners. Behind every great invention lies a quiet place, a workshop shrouded in shadows, where hands shape dreams into reality. These places are rarely celebrated, often lost to time, but they are the true crucibles of knowledge. The Antikythera mechanism was born in such a workshop, a room filled with the soft scrape of files on bronze, the warm glow of oil lamps, and the patient, steady rhythm of thought made tangible. We have no names for these craftsmen, no faces to imagine bending over tools, only the echoes of their work etched in gears and inscriptions. Their shadows stretch long across history, silhouettes of quiet genius lost beneath dust and sea. Imagine the workshop's scent, a mingling of cedarwood, metal filings, and the faintest hint of oil. Tools, worn by centuries of use. Scrolls splayed open with mathematical diagrams. A bench cluttered with gear wheels, pins, and tiny bronze fragments waiting to become part of a greater whole. Here, theory met practice, and ideas took the form of turning teeth. The creation of the mechanism was no casual task. It required collaboration engineers, working with astronomers, mathematicians working with artisans, a synthesis of minds, each bringing their craft to bear. And yet, such workshops were fragile. They depended on patronage, on resources, on peace. And when war or turmoil came, they vanished. Their knowledge scattered, their tools lost. These forgotten workshops were places of reverence. The work was slow, deliberate. Mistakes were not just errors. They were lessons etched into metal. The mechanism's surviving fragments bear marks of trial and error, signs of adjustments, of gears remade, of ideas refined. It is a testament to human persistence, to the endless pursuit of understanding. Today, we try to reconstruct those workshops. In our minds, we imagine the steady hands, the careful eyes, the late nights spent poring over calculations and prototypes. But the true workshops remain hidden in shadows, known only through the artifacts they left behind. Tonight, as you settle into quiet, picture that workshop once more. Hear the faint scrape of metal. Feel the gentle pulse of thought and creation. Know that in some forgotten room, the gears of understanding first began to turn. Sleep now, cradled in the shadows of forgotten workshops, where the past and future quietly meet. The Roman Empire was a world of marble roads and marching feet of law, conquest and stone. It prized order and strength, but not always the quiet wonder of the stars. And yet, even Rome, conqueror of nations, builder of empires, could not help but reach toward the heavens, if only to measure them, plane them, and fold them into its dominion. When Rome took Greece, it inherited more than land. It inherited the thoughts of skywatchers, the scrolls of dreamers, and the gears of machines too subtle for swords to understand. The Antikythera mechanism was found aboard a Romang ship, a vessel carrying Greek treasures, westward art, philosophy, and perhaps a final whisper of Hellenic genius. It is no accident that the mechanism vanished beneath Roman waters, nor that it was never replicated under the Roman flag. For the Romans, the sky was useful, but never sacred. They built roads that mapped the earth, but not devices to mirror the motion of the moon. Their engineers mastered aqueducts, bridges, colosseums, but not the finely tuned gears that measured lunar anomalies. The mechanism, it seems, was not their language. It was Greek in spirit, philosophical, astronomical, reverent. And so this machine, too delicate, too profound, found no further home in the empire's great cities. Its craftsmanship was admired, perhaps, but not understood. Its usefulness recognized, but not continued. In the empire of iron and conquest, bronze gave way to stone. Rome ruled the world with discipline, but lacked the soft curiosity that gave the Antikythera mechanism breath. It copied Greek science, yes, but rarely surpassed it. The gears of philosophy, inquiry, and patient observation began to rust beneath the empire's weight. Still, some Roman minds tried to listen. Writers like Pliny recorded celestial events. Seneca pondered comets and eclipses. But their curiosity was not mechanical, not turned into turning things. The machine found no successors, and so it disappeared. When Rome fell, it took with it roads, temples, scrolls, and the slow whisper of sky wisdom that had passed through Greek lips for centuries. The knowledge fragmented, dispersed like embers in the wind. The lights of inquiry flickered, dimmed by politics, religion, and war. Tonight, as you lie beneath the quiet hush of night, imagine a Roman port at dusk, a ship arriving from the east, bearing treasures both visible and hidden. Among the marble busts and amphorae, a small wooden box is carried ashore. Inside, a machine sleeps, its gears stilled, and no one knows what it truly is. Sleep? Now, as Rome takes the stars and forgets what they mean, leaving their rhythm to rust until the sea gives them back. Time is a silent revolution, turning without fanfare or notice, marking the quiet passage of days, seasons, and centuries. The Antikythera mechanism was born in this revolution, a subtle shift in how humans understood the cosmos. It did not shout progress with thunderous machines or towering monuments. It whispered it softly in turning bronze gears, in cycles measured not by kings but by the dance of the stars. This was a revolution not of swords, but of minds, of thinkers who sought to measure the immeasurable, to bring the heavens into human grasp. It was a revolution that unfolded in workshops and observatories, where scribes copied star charts and craftsmen carved teeth into bronze with infinite patience. The Antikythera mechanism embodies this silent revolution. It is an ancient computer, yes, but also a statement of faith. Faith in order In cycles, in the possibility of prediction, by turning its gears, ancient astronomers could anticipate eclipses, calculate the position of the moon and sun, and understand the intricate timing of festivals and rituals. In a world ruled by gods and fate, this machine offered something rare, a glimpse of certainty, a way to pierce the veil of mystery, to see the future etched in the stars. It was a tool of empowerment, allowing humanity to step into the rhythm of the cosmos. But this revolution was not loud nor widespread. It was guarded, perhaps held within elite circles, a secret whispered among scholars and patrons. Its knowledge traveled slowly, carried by scrolls and teachers, but never fully blossomed into a new age, at least not until centuries later. And so the revolution remains silent, its echoes buried in corroded bronze, waiting to be heard once again. As we study the mechanism today, we hear the faint pulse of that ancient heartbeat, a revolution still turning in hidden cycles. Tonight, as you breathe deeply, imagine yourself turning the dials of this ancient machine, feeling the smooth resistance of its gears, and listening to the quiet revolution of time. Let its rhythm slow your thoughts and guide you gently into sleep. Sleep now carried on the silent revolution of time. Legacy is a quiet thing, not always spoken loudly, nor etched boldly in stone. Sometimes it sleeps beneath layers of dust and salt water, hidden in places forgotten by time. The Antikythera mechanism is such a legacy, a gift buried deep beneath the waves, waiting patiently to speak again. It is the whisper of a civilization's greatest hopes, not for conquest or glory, but for understanding. In bronze, it carries the imprint of minds that sought to decode the universe's rhythms, to measure the unmeasurable, and to hold the stars in human hands. Yet legacy is fragile. It depends not only on creation, but on preservation, on passing the flame from one generation to the next. The mechanism's journey from workshop to shipwreck, from the depths of the sea to the hands of modern scientists, tells a story of loss and rediscovery. It asks us to consider what else may be lost: ideas, inventions, knowledge swept away by war, neglect, or time. How many legacies lie buried, unseen? How many voices silenced? And yet, in this one machine, we glimpse a spark, a flame that survived the darkest tides. This legacy challenges our view of progress. It suggests that human ingenuity is not new, but ancient and enduring. It reminds us that knowledge is not always linear, that sometimes brilliance lies hidden beneath layers of silence. Tonight, as you rest, think of this legacy buried in bronze, of the hands that crafted it, of the minds that dreamed it. Let it inspire a quiet hope that the past still speaks, and that we are part of a long, unbroken chain. Sleep now, wrapped in the soft glow of a legacy waiting to be born anew. Some guardians of history are loud monuments, empires, and grand cities carved into stone. But others are quiet, hidden in the folds of time, turning softly in the hands of those who seek understanding. The Antikythera mechanism belongs to these quiet keepers, keepers of knowledge who built a bridge between the heavens and humanity, who recorded the dance of the stars in bronze gears and etched inscriptions. These keepers were not kings or conquerors, but artisans and philosophers, scholars and dreamers. They measured the cosmos not for power, but for wonder. They were the unseen custodians of time, watching cycles turn, counting eclipses, and weaving human lives into the rhythm of the universe. Their work was patient, delicate, and precise. Each gear cut with care, each dial aligned with cosmic truth. The mechanism was not just a tool, but a poem written in metal. They understood that time is more than hours and minutes. It is a story, a melody of cycles, of beginnings and endings, of darkness and light. The quiet keepers knew their work would outlast them, though they could not know how far into the future it would reach. They passed their knowledge down, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in scrolls, always hoping that someone would listen. Today, centuries later, we hold fragments of their wisdom in our hands. We listen to the quiet turning of gears. We read the faded inscriptions, and in doing so, we join the long line of keepers, those who watch time's gentle flow and honor its mysteries. Tonight, as your breath slows, imagine these keepers, their hands steady, their eyes focused, turning the wheels of time and guarding the stories of stars. Let their quiet devotion soothe you and guide you gently into sleep. Sleep now, with time's quiet keepers watching over you. The hands that built the Antikythera mechanism were ancient, but they reached forward toward futures unseen, toward knowledge not yet fully born. They worked with bronze and wood, tools simple yet powerful, crafting a device that spoke not just of their time, but of time itself. In their quiet workshops, they dreamed of the stars' endless cycles, the rising and setting of planets, the dance of the moon and sun. Their vision stretched beyond their own lives, a gift passed silently to us across millennia. This future was not of machines and electricity, but of understanding, a deep connection between humanity and the cosmos. The mechanism was a bridge between past and present, between mystery and knowledge. Though buried beneath the sea for centuries, its message has resurfaced. It reminds us that progress is often hidden, that ancient hands may have held the keys to mysteries we are only beginning to grasp. The future they imagined is still unfolding. With modern science and technology, we now peer deeper into the cosmos, unraveling the secrets that once seemed beyond reach. And in the turning gears of the mechanism, we see the heartbeat of that ancient curiosity, the first pulse in a long chain of discovery. Tonight, as you rest, feel the connection between your own breath and the steady rhythm of those ancient hands. Know that the future lives not just in bright lights and new inventions, but in the quiet continuity of human wonder. Sleep now, cradled by the future in ancient hands. Long after its builders had turned to dust, after cities had fallen, scrolls had burned, and stars had risen unseen, the machine still remembered, not in memory as we know it, but in turning teeth and nested cycles, and dials pointing silently to where the moon once stood. It had no voice, no heart, but it remembered the sky better than any soul alive. The Antikythera mechanism was not just a calculator, not merely a timepiece. It was a memory carved into metal, of how the cosmos moves and breathes. It remembered eclipses long past and foretold ones yet to come. It remembered the metonic rhythm of the moon and the slow procession of heavenly events. Even after its creators were forgotten, the machine held on. Its fragments, corroded and broken, still clung to their knowledge. The teeth of its gears, though worn by salt and time, still fit together with uncanny precision. It waited beneath the sea, like a dreaming oracle, until someone came to ask it a question. Again, when modern eyes gazed upon it, they saw more than bronze. They saw memory encoded in craftsmanship, an intelligence etched into structure, a sky map built not just to function, but to preserve. And so the machine spoke once more, not with words, but with motion. Court scans and X-rays became its translators. Mathematical modeling gave it voice, and what it said was simple, profound, and strangely comforting. I remember. It remembered when the next eclipse would come, when Venus would rise, when the moon would wane, and where the sun would stand on the first day of spring. These were not predictions. They were recollections. For a machine like this, time is a circle, and nothing is ever truly lost. The Antikythera mechanism is the first known machine to remember the universe's rhythms, and in that it teaches us something gently profound, that memory can outlive flesh. That understanding, once shaped into form, can wait patiently to be found again. Tonight, as you close your eyes, feel the quiet comfort of a mind that remembered the stars. Let its stillness guide your own thoughts to rest. For even as centuries pass, some machines remember for us, so that we may remember ourselves. Sleep now. Beside the machine that remembered the sky, the universe moves in a dance as old as time, itself a choreography of stars, planets, and moons spinning silently through the velvet black. For the ancient maker of the Antikythera mechanism, this dance was no distant spectacle, but a pattern to be understood, measured, and reflected in turning bronze. The machine is a miniature cosmos, each gear a partner in the grand ballet, each dial a rhythm marking the steps of celestial bodies. It captures the cycles of the moon's phases, the timing of eclipses, and the slow procession of the planets. Long after the original music of the spheres faded into myth, this device preserved the beat, the steady pulse of the heavens, renewed with every turn of its gears. It allowed its users to enter the dance, to anticipate the movements of the sky, and to mark time with the certainty of the cosmos itself. Imagine the ancient scholar who turned its crank, feeling the gears click softly beneath their fingers, watching the pointers glide slowly, mirroring the very movements of stars above. For them, the mechanism was more than a tool. It was a bridge between earth and sky, a way to join the cosmic rhythm. Through centuries of silence, war, and forgetting, the dance continued. The planets moved. The moon waxed and waned. Eclipses came and went, and though the mechanism slept beneath, the sea, its rhythm waited to be heard again. Today, as modern scholars decode its secrets, the cosmic dance is resumed. We glimpse anew the harmony between human ingenuity and the universe, and feel the ancient heartbeat in our own. Tonight, as you drift to sleep, imagine yourself part of this eternal dance. Feel the slow turning of gears. Beneath your hand, the whisper of the stars calling you into rhythm. Let the cosmic dance soothe your mind and carry you gently into rest. Sleep now as the cosmic dance resumes. Some hands shape history in silence, in shadows where no eyes watch. Invisible hands that craft not for fame, but for the quiet love of understanding. The Antikythera mechanism is the echo of such hands, minds and fingers weaving complexity. From simplicity, turning abstract thought into tangible form. These hands were the invisible artisans of an invisible age, the unsung engineers, The patient mathematicians who carved the universe's secrets into bronze gears, they labored in workshops hidden from prying eyes, their work destined to vanish beneath centuries of dust and water, yet leaving behind whispers we still hear dot in the mechanism's fractured remains. We sense their presence. Each tooth, each gear is a signature, a silent testament to meticulous care, to the devotion of those who built a machine to capture time itself. Invisible, yes, but never absent. Their legacy turns still, beneath layers of coral and silence, waiting for new hands to unlock its mysteries, to listen once more to the rhythm of the cosmos dot, and we, in this moment, become part of that lineage, careful listeners, humble seekers dot as we study the mechanism. We reach across millennia to touch those invisible hands. Tonight, as you lie in quiet, imagine those hands moving gently through the dark, turning the small gears that hold the universe's secrets. Let their quiet labor soothe your thoughts, and their invisible touch guide you into rest. Sleep now, cradled by the echoes of invisible hands. We often think it is we who remember the stars, mapping their paths, naming their constellations, writing stories in their light. But what if, in some quiet way, it is the stars who remember us? What if, tucked into their turning, woven into their rhythm, is the trace of every eye that ever watched them rise? The Antikythera mechanism is proof that we once listened deeply, that we once knew the cadence of the cosmos, not as a distant mystery, but as a familiar song. It remembers for us the seasons we forgot, the eclipses we no longer mark, the moments when we stood still beneath the sky and felt part of something infinite. For though its makers are long gone, their memory lingers, not in words, but in precision, in curiosity, in the turning of a dial that still points to where the sun will shine tomorrow. This is the gift of the stars. They keep us, even when we forget them. And perhaps that is the secret of the mechanism. Not that it measured time, but that it held time's memory. It held the echo of minds that asked quietly, what lies beyond this sky? And answered, not with certainty, but with wonder shaped into motion. Now the stars continue to turn, and we, too, continue to search. But with each rediscovery, each ancient gear brought into the light, we remember that we've asked these questions before, that long before telescopes and satellites, there were human hands and quiet minds, and one machine that dared to speak the language of the cosmos. Let that be your closing thought. Tonight, not everything is lost. Not every mystery fades. Some truths are only sleeping, waiting for us to remember where we left them. And when we do, the stars perhaps will remember us too. Sleep now, beneath their quiet gaze, as time drifts on, and the memory of the stars turns gently within you.